Thank you, Father Vasileios. He has a great sense of humor. You know it already. But we have a saying in Argentina that God lives in Argentina and his office is in Buenos Aires. So Texas can say all at once. We still outrank you. I heard the words you said, and apart from the flattery, which I thank you very much for, but it's not necessary. The important thing is that the liturgy is a living experience. And it means something for the clergy, for those who sing, and for the congregation that participates, that it's alive. And you feel something, and you get something out of it. We don't have to teach you the ABCs. You know them, you grew up with them, or you learn them as you go along. And this liturgy today gave me that feeling. And I'm not saying it just to flatter you. But I sit down, please. You know, when the bishop comes, he says a few things extra. I'll try to be brief. I'll try to be to the point. I don't see a crowd like this in Buenos Aires except on Pascha. You made me very happy. You came early. You stayed to the end. You received communion, all of you. You sang with the choir, so many of you. This was a living Orthodox liturgical experience, and I'm grateful to you for that. I'm not surprised. I know Father Vasileios for many years. I know his talents and his charismata, and I know what he can offer, and I think he, along with all of you, have worked hard together to build up the spiritual life of this parish, and I congratulate each and every one of you. There are lessons to be learned, however. We cannot become lax. We cannot just depend on the one Sunday a week liturgy to keep us strong and keep us faithful and keep us Christ-centered. These lessons we got from the epistle and from the gospel of today, from the Canaanite woman who begged Christ, have mercy on me, help me. And I thought about this while I was thinking, what was I going to say in the liturgy today? And you know, with all due respect to each and every one of you and all of us, if Christ had talked to us that way today, we didn't know who he was, I doubt we would have given the same answer. When he said, I was called only for the house of Israel, some of you in another setting would have gotten up and walked away. When he said that the bread is only for the faithful and we throw the crumbs to the dogs, you'd have said, who does he think he is talking to us like that? We'll get him transferred. The point that I want to make is very simple. We have to begin to train ourselves to think more spiritually and to hide our ego and to bury it, if not to get rid of it. Impossible, because we are human beings. But we have to try. That's why we hear this gospel every year at this time of the year. We don't repeat these things like a broken record because we have nothing else to say or do. We repeat them to remind each and every one of us how we must live our lives. And our lives are wonderful. And we're supposed to do all these great things we do, and we're supposed to have lovely houses, and we're supposed to have a full program with our children and take them to all of the events that need to go to, and we need to, in our senior years, to relax and to travel, and we need to do all of these things. It's all good. But we can't just have one little part of our life for Christ. It has to be ongoing, conscientiously, every minute, every moment of the day. What would Christ say to me? Would he say, go away, you're not worthy of the bread of the holy altar, and you come back and say, well, fine, I don't care. You have to say, help me, Lord. Help me, Lord, even in this moment, even through insults, even through hardships, even through sickness, even through any difficulties that life puts in front of you. Help me, Lord. And he will say, great is your faith. He's got to say that. But you've got to provoke him to say that. You've got to show him that, yes, my faith is great. Not on the margin. Not only when I'm sick or when I get the worst of news. Not only when there's a catastrophe in the family. Not only when somebody, a home is broken apart. Not only, you go on and on. You know the things that happen in life. You never know what's going to happen and when. So you must always be prepared. Christ has to be the center of our life. It was today, here. I felt it. You felt it. This is the first time in my 18 years as an archbishop that I celebrated with 2 deacons.
In Texas.
And in Texas, everything happens. And I was blessed to have 2 deacons. Deacon George, whom I know, I'm not going to tell you how old I am. You know how old he is. I'm a couple years younger. To your credit. And I had the pleasure of celebrating with him. I knew his father very well. I mean, I'm from that generation. And with also Father Soterios, Father Salvatore, who was a pleasure to celebrate with. All too often, I celebrate the liturgy by myself. I don't use my crown. I simplify it, and I go to these little villages and I do the liturgy. And I'm happy to do it, but it's a great pleasure and a blessing to be able to do it in a full Orthodox complement with 2 choirs, the Protopsaltes and the Lambadari, or the second choir, singing antiphonally. This is how it's supposed to be. These are the responses that we give. And then the congregation unites with them in their prayer. My experience in Buenos Aires is ongoing. I never had the chance to celebrate the liturgy here. It's the first time. I did a wedding here of my cousin and her husband, Chambika and Oktay. But this is the first time I had a chance, and I wanted very much to have the blessing from His Eminence Metropolitan Isaiah, whom I thank with all my heart for allowing me to come and celebrate with you before this holy altar in this magnificent church. I mean, I've been around so long that I knew the time when Father Nick Triandafilo chose this property. I was with him. He was so anxious to show it to me. And the little building that was on top of it. I know all of that. And now I see what God has allowed you to do. This is God's work. And if God can build a building like this, He can build your hearts and your lives as magnificently. And that's what He needs to do. And that's what He will do when you do your part. Remember to stay united. A divided house cannot stand. And unless the house is built by God, it is built in vain. And all of these things from the Bible, I could go on and on, but the point that I need to make for you is don't let the devil come in and take away what you have. Shield yourselves, shield this church, shield this community, and keep the love of God alive and strong and multiplying from person to person in this beautiful city of Austin, Texas. In Buenos Aires, we have 5 communities. We have 6 communities. We have 5 churches. We barely have 4 priests. We have no psalty. I'm the best psalty they have there, and I'm not that good. You guys were great. Over here too. They go away?
Yeah, they're over here.
They're sitting down.
They're sitting.
And I have to be the psalty. And I don't mind, because there's a ministry there. There's a thirst there. There's a need. So I find my fulfillment in doing my diaconia according to where God has sent me. But it should make you all appreciate the blessings that you have here in your parish life. Sunday school doesn't exist. Oratorical festivals don't exist. Very few things, the very basics. And we're trying to build it up. It's not easy. It's not easy because of the way of life of the Argentines, the Brazilians, the Uruguayans, the Chileans, the Peruvians. I have jurisdiction over all of South America with the exception of Colombia and Venezuela, thank God. But everything else belongs to me, and I have to plan throughout the year to make these visits. And it's not easy. Sometimes I have to be the one to open the church, I have to be the one to clean the church, I have to be the one to clean up after the church. Or I get somebody to help, but it's not that you walk in and it's all in working order.
Right.
Sometimes we have to go to the bakery down the road to get the psomi for the Prospero because they didn't remember to do it or don't know how to do it. We do what we can with what we have. We'd like to think we can grow. I can't be pessimistic. I have to be optimistic. But my common sense is a little pessimistic because it's difficult. It's difficult now that we're in our 5th and 6th generation, like you are, to kind of go back to the yaya and the papu and the pro-yaya and the pro-papu who were in church every day. Which brings me now to the Feast of St. Charalambos. We have a lot of things going on today. We have the Canaanite woman.
Yes.
We have the Feast of St. Charalambos. And we also have Cheese Fair Sunday. And I'll say that in a minute too. But St. Charalambos was a priest. And he was martyred by the church. I don't remember the century, do you?
2nd century.
2nd century, close enough. You go to Wikipedia, you find all of these things. Google it. I don't need to tell you here from the throne about these things. I need to tell you only that St. Charalambos was an image of how each and every one of us must find the priesthood in ourselves. He's not just for Father Vasileios, a priest, or for the deacons. He's for you, because you are all members of the royal priesthood of the kingdom of heaven. That's a privilege. Use it. Boast about it in a spiritual way. And help it make you a better person, give you a stronger life. We say it, but we don't always mean it. Would I give up my life for Christ? Would you? You would probably for your child, but I bet you'd have second thoughts for somebody, for Christ, not having seen him or know him. But you see him, and you know him, here. And we could be here today, alive and breathing, and we could be gone tomorrow, and we need to be with Christ at that hour, at that moment. And St. Charalambos, he could have hidden, he could have sneaked away, he could have escaped, but he stood there and accepted martyrdom. He was a priest priest. And you are also priests. You are also members of the holy priesthood of Christ in your own special way. You can't celebrate the liturgy. You can't do a baptism unless it's an emergency. You can't do a wedding, but you participate in the Eucharist. That's the most important thing. To participate in the Eucharist and unite yourself with Christ when he said, do this in remembrance of me. And then we come to the Cheese Fair Sunday, and I will end there.
Go on.
What happens with Cheese Fair Sunday? Shouldn't we just do away with it?
Oh.
And Meat Fair Sunday? Shouldn't we just do away with it? If I tell the Argentines, don't eat meat during Lent, are you kidding me? On the 25th of March, they're going to have their yorti, they're going to have their festival, and they're going to all eat meat and bring me a big salmon fish because the bishop is fasting.